If you work hard enough, you can achieve everything that you want. That's a phrase that we've all heard ever since our childhood, and it makes sense. If we put the necessary efforts, we will eventually see the results. And I've been believing into this phrase ever since, until one day I kind of opened my eyes and I realized how much of a lie this is. So bonjour hi my loves, I hope you're doing well, I hope you're doing fine. So in today's episode, I will talk about how meritocracy is the biggest lie in history, because it is not true. You can put all your blood, sweat and tears into something and still see no results. And that's something that society doesn't want us to know. So let's start by giving a definition of what meritocracy is. Meritocracy is a political, social, or economic system in which individuals are assigned to positions of power, influence, or reward solely based on their abilities and achievements rather than their social, cultural, or economic background. It represents a rejection of hereditary aristocracy and nepotism and allowing the possibility of equality of opportunity. In simpler terms, meritocracy suggests that if you work hard enough, you can achieve your goals and dreams. The idea of meritocracy appeals because it promises fairness, social mobility, and a system where effort and talent, rather than birthright or privilege, determine success. This narrative resonates deeply, especially in societies that value individualism. But is this truly the case? Fully accepting and believing in meritocracy as the sole driver of individual success is problematic, mostly in a capitalist society. So let's delve into how capitalism intersects with this concept. Capitalism is a widely adopted economic system characterized by private ownership of production. It typically involves a market-oriented economy where goods, services, and income are dictated by market forces rather than a centralized government control. Here are some key values associated with capitalism. So we have private property, we have profit motive, where the main goal is to maximize profit, we have market efficiency, competition, individualism, and meritocracy. So in theory, capitalism rewards hard-working individual. It creates a system where anyone can rise to success through their skills and contribution. But how does meritocracy and capitalism can coexist in reality? Because by far, I've only explained these two concepts in theory, and unfortunately, sometimes the theory and the reality, there's a huge gap in between. So let's see how this gap is being translated. Despite the promises made by capitalism and meritocracy, their coexistence is riddled with contradictions. The first one is systemic inequalities. We can see them in education. So the access of quality educations depends on your wealth and or where you live. And it limits opportunities for many who don't come from a wealthy family and or who don't live next to a great school. Systemic inequalities are also seen in wealth. So example, there's generational wealth and privilege often determine success more than individual efforts, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that your environment will dictate who you'll become as a person. All I'm saying is that we cannot disagree that your environment will have an impact on your trajectory of your life. There's also the myth of fairness, because meritocracy, it states that if you work hard enough, you will see the result. So it implies that the rich solely are rich because they've put the hard work, completely ignoring nepotism, completely ignoring the exploitation, completely ignoring also privilege in general. And again, for sure there's some rich people who genuinely are rich because they've put the work into it and they're like the first generation of their family to be quote-unquote rich. So this is a reality that can also coexist in the same reality that some, not to say all rich people, are rich because of privilege, because of exploitation, because of nepotism, blah blah blah. So to claim that our society, life in general, rules by meritocracy is a complete lie. This is why I'm saying that it's the biggest lie in history. There's also the stigma of poverty, because under meritocracy it says that basically if you are poor, it's all your fault because you didn't put the hard work enough. Again, completely erasing the injustice, the discrimination that poor people have, the systemic barriers, the low wages, and the list goes on. Meritocracy has no empathy when it comes to people who aren't wealthy, and meritocracy is blaming people who are in poverty because they quote-unquote didn't put the hard work, instead of blaming the fucking society who put them into these injustice, who put them into these crisis situations and stuff. And under meritocracy, it claims to be a viable concept. It claims to be fair because they are winners, but it's not because they are winners that means that this concept is fair. When this concept rules under unfairness, it doesn't fucking make sense. It actually does make sense, honestly, that society is trying to sell us this dream, because once they are selling us this dream, we are fully putting ourselves into capitalism. We are working hard, we are taking fucking extra hours, we are taking horrible work conditions to hopefully see the results of our efforts, but this is not true. You can work as hard as you fucking want, sometimes results won't be happening, and it fucking sucks. I am not saying this to like destroy anyone's dreams, but like, it just fucking sucks, because by telling us that as long as you work hard enough you'll see the results, it completely erases people who are coming from privileged backgrounds, nepo babies, nepotism in general, and it just sucks because it just fucking sucks. And it has also psychological consequences, because those who aren't like wealthy, those who are in poverty situation, they feel guilt, they feel shame, because they, from childhood, they are being told, if you work hard enough you'll see the result and you're going to get paid for these efforts. And once their efforts weren't paid, once they didn't see the result, they will feel shame because they will blame themselves instead of the society that we're living in, a society that is built, like I said, through privilege, nepotism, and exploitation of others. So that's fucking insane. And also, meritocracy and capitalism in general is only dividing people between the quote-unquote deserving ones and the quote-unquote undeserving ones. It just creates an even more gap and even more inequalities, which is such a shame, honestly. And I'm super like heated right now, because for the longest time I believed too, if I work hard enough I will see the results. I am working hard enough and I don't see results, and again, I am still a part of the privileged ones because I live under my parents' roof. I don't have to pay like rent to them. I have food on my table. I don't have kids to like worry about, so I'm still a part of the privileged ones. Like, I am not saying the opposite, but saying that we are getting what we deserve through meritocracy, through inserting ourselves into capitalism. It's like such a fucking lie, and I'm so pissed that I've believed in that. Like I said, in theory, meritocracy is so beautiful, so fair, it makes sense. But in reality, it's filled with a fucking paradox and issues, because getting what we deserve, we can work as hard as we fucking want. Some people will never get what they deserve. For example, people who are constantly being exploited. Like, it just fucking sucks that society is claiming that it's ruling under meritocracy when it clearly isn't, and it's ignoring like structural inequalities. Daniel Markovits, in his book Meritocracy Trap, he argues that meritocracy is a pretense constructed to rationalize an unjust distribution of advantage. It is the same system that claims and rewards talent, elite, schools, high-paying jobs that are accessible only to privileged people, which he couldn't said it better. Of course, he's an expert, but like, it's so fucking true. And once I read this quote, I was like, oh my god, it's even more fucking crazy that I've believed in meritocracy for this long. Mind blown. And I can even take it as far as society trying to make us believe into meritocracy as propaganda, because ever since childhood, like I said in the intro, we've been conditioned and to think as long as you work hard enough, you will see the results from fucking childhood. And the school system only reinforced this idea, because in school it makes sense. If you work for an exam, you put all your time and energy and focus into this exam, you will get the results, in theory. But the amount of fucking students that I've known, and sometimes I was part of it, I guess I was lucky, where they can give no fucks about this exam and have like 98%, and there's, on the other hand, some students who spend hours and hours and hours studying for the same exam and get like 40%. This again is a proof that meritocracy isn't even working in the school system when it should be, when you think about it, the first place where it should work, right? And there's also the media and pop culture, like the amount of actors, singers, rappers, people in the entertainment industries who have stories of like they grew up in like poverty and like they put a video on YouTube and they blew up and now they're like super rich and successful. It doesn't take off the fact that these stories, like, I'm not discrediting their stories. I'm not saying that this is not true at all. All I'm saying is because of the amount of people who have similar stories like that, we kind of believe that it is a norm. We think that, oh, it's like accessible. It can actually like be something I can achieve, when in reality, these stories, these successful stories are the exception and not the norm. The amount of people who work in like big corporations for like 25 years and one day the son of the CEO wants to like work at the same company, and because he's the son of the CEO, he's like being like promoted like quicker than the person who's been there for 25 years because, again, nepotism. Like, this is unfortunately the reality. These are scenarios that exist in real life, and society actually is trying to make us believe as hard as they can that it doesn't happen, like it doesn't exist, like, and if it does, it's like just a small percentage. It shouldn't happen, like it's not right, it's not fair, when the whole society, the capitalism itself, resides on having privileged people and having people who are not, on having people who are exploited and having people who are exploiting. Like, I'm not agreeing that this is right. All I'm saying is that this is the reality of our society. So to claim that meritocracy is driving the capitalism society that we're living in, you're a fool! You're a fool! And don't worry, I was a fool too until I fucking opened my eyes. Like, it just sucks when I realized that life isn't fair. That this was just a dream. That was a part of their propaganda, and I fell right into it. I believed that life was right. That good people should succeed and the bad ones shouldn't. Life isn't fair. And once I realized that, it made me really sad, but at least I opened my eyes, and at least I don't have fake hopes anymore. And it sounds so deep and sad, but like, I don't want to ruin anyone's dream at all. Like, if you have dreams to like be in the entertainment industry, I fucking hope you will achieve your dreams. I just want you to realize that meritocracy is a fucking lie. Biggest lie in history in my mind. I mean, there's a lot of lies in history, but this one, top 20. Like, what the hell? And all of this for what? To create more wealth to wealthy people, to create a greater disparity, to fucking have people who are exploited and people who are exploiting. Like, all of this so that the 1% can stay the same 1%? Like, it fucking sucks. I hate capitalism society. I hate the society that we're living in. So I hope that with this video you've learned that meritocracy, as much as appealing as it is, it cannot coexist with capitalism. Maybe in another type of society, sure, but in capitalism, it cannot coexist. coexist without creating inequalities and systemic inequalities, because capitalism thrives on exploitation and inequality, making true meritocracy an illusion rather than a reality. So what we can do, maybe I've made all people listening depressed, but we can actually be aware of the situation and understand that unfortunately life isn't fair. Even though we feel like we don't have power to make change, we actually do if we all start speaking out about it and support policies that promote equality of education, wealth, employment. The list goes on. So I hope that this episode made you realize a couple things. And on that note, I hope you have a beautiful night of sleep. I love you. Take care. Au revoir.